What's going on? It's Mario. I'm back for another season of The Big Hit. Glad to be here today. I'm with my guys, Danny and Nate. They're going to talk about some Pirates baseball. You know, another lackluster season. They haven't been good since I was in like 5th grade, and I'm a junior in college now. So, you know, we've been struggling, but there was some promise this season, right, gentlemen? You know, we have, 74 wins, 74 to 82, a couple games left, but we definitely have some young prospects that are, you know, beginning to make a difference. What would you like to say about that?
Yes, so I will say the future is bright in the city of Pittsburgh for Bucko baseball, and here's why. The last 2 years, Danny and Mario, 100 losses. They haven't made the playoffs since 2015, and I'm losing my mind. But here we go. They're 74 and 82 right now. They're not going to have a winning record. Best they can do is 80 and 82 if they win out. But these last 2 weeks, I have seen the most competitive Pirates baseball I have seen since the playoffs. They took 2 of 3 against the Cubs, who are trying to make the playoffs. They took 2 of 3 against the Cincinnati Reds, who are trying to make the playoffs.
And the biggest comeback.
Yeah, and the biggest comeback in Pirates history since like their existence in like the 1800s.
Steps to the plate.
Hit to right, base hit. Here come the Pirates. Sawinski is in. Triolo is in. The ball gets stuck in the wall. Here comes Endy to the plate. The Pirates have tied the game. You gotta be kidding me. How about these battling Bucks? Runs in this game. And there's another hit. That's down to the gap for Bay. Triolo scores. Rivas being waved home. What a great night to be a Pirate. In the air. Sawinski. He's got it. The Pirates with their best come-from-behind win ever.
They were down 9-0.
Ellie De La Mid.
Yeah, Ellie De La Bust, you can call him. I hate that guy. Most overhyped prospect. O'Neal Cruz is better, of course. But here's the thing about the Pirates that is interesting. They now have 3 games against the Phillies coming up, who are trying to make the playoffs, and then 3 against Miami, who are trying to make the playoffs. The Pirates are definitely the team that is causing the most chaos. And although they are not going to make the postseason, they are going to screw over a lot of teams that are trying to make the postseason, aka the Cubs and the Reds, and possibly the Miami Marlins. Because the Phillies, I think, are locked up in, but the Miami Marlins is going to come down to what happens in Pittsburgh this coming weekend, and I'm excited to see what they can do.
Yeah. Obviously, the Pirates, disappointing season. They started off 20-8. Listen, I was really excited at the beginning of the season. I was like, Bucktober's back. We're here. This is what I've been waiting for. But no, unfortunately, Bob Nutting didn't do anything. He didn't do nothing. He did sign Reynolds and Key Ryan Hayes, which was something good for him. But he didn't sign anyone. He didn't trade for anyone big. So I don't know. I think that we're going to obviously be better next year. O'Neal Cruz will be back. I'm excited for that. Obviously, 74 wins is a major improvement since last year.
62 last year.
Yeah, so I'm excited for what next year brings. A lot of young talent, and Paul Skeens is going to be up. That means we're going to have a lot of talent in the stands. Shout out Livy Dunn. But I'm really excited for the pitching staff coming up. Obviously, Paul Skeens, Quinn Preuster had a pretty below average year. I was pretty excited for him. I would like to see what is going on with, what's his name, Bubba Watson in the minors?
Bubba Chandler.
Bubba Chandler, yeah, my bad. I'm pretty sure he can hit and pitch.
So
does he do both, or does he
interesting note about
him
is the Pirates announced in spring training, he is a shortstop. You know what's funny? He turned down going to Clemson to play quarterback, to play for the Pirates and be stuck in the minor leagues for a couple years. But he's a pitcher and a hitter. But his hitting was kind of subpar. So with the pitching they have now, it's kind of like, okay, we just want him to pitch.
Yeah.
Because they don't have a lot of young pitchers that are panning out well. Like Quinn Priester, like you said, he has not looked that good. I was excited for Quinn Priester, but looking at his stats in the minor leagues, I was like, he's kind of overhyped because he was like the first round pick we had in 2019, and it was along the lines of, are we just naming him a top prospect because he was the number 1 pick? Because this year, his first career season, 7.86 ERA, 3-2 in 9 games. Yeah. And it has not looked good. They sent him back down. He was just up over the weekend. His start was okay against Cincinnati. He did what he could do. I need to see more from Quinn Priester because you have to hope he is one of the answers for a pitching staff that has not looked good, but like they've had improvement from Mitch Keller, Oviedo, as much as people don't really like him, I love Johan Oviedo because he's been efficient, and he's probably your number 2 guy right now, which for a major league team, if your number 1 and 2 are Mitch Keller or Johan Oviedo, people aren't probably going to take you seriously. But Paul Skeens, when he comes up, is going to be good. They have a prospect named Jared Jones who's going to be good. I'm hoping Anthony Solometo, if you know about him, he's going to be looking good. And then Bubba Chandler hopefully can look good as well.
Yeah, the pitching staff should improve from what we have in the minor leagues. The hitting's definitely going to improve. We got Brian Hayes picked it up at the end of the year, started hitting some dingers. And I think that he definitely should make his case for the Gold Glove. Hopefully
he should win the Gold
Arenado.
Glove.
But we know how the MLB works. Just since Arenado hits more, they're going to give him the fielding award, which has never really processed right in my mind. But I think they just want to keep his streak alive for every year he's been in the league. He has won the Gold Glove. So I would love for Brian Hayes to be the guy to break that streak, which he rightfully should. So I think that Brian Hayes is definitely something that we have locked down for a few years. He's going to be good. We now have Endy Rodriguez, who we called up, who's catching, who I really wasn't impressed from Endy. From what's been called up. I was really impressed with Henry Davis for a little bit. He fell off. He's starting to come back a little bit now. But I really am not impressed with Endy Rodriguez so far. I mean, he hasn't done anything like crazy yet.
So let me tell you about Endy Rodriguez. So have their stats right here. He's batting .211, 3 homers, 11 RBIs. So here's the thing about the Pirates' catching situation I'm not a fan of. So, of course, we saw, and this is a review of this whole season, the Austin Hedges fiasco. Everyone was booing him because he legitimately stunk. But part of me is like, part of those boos are probably towards the coaching staff and the ownership because they called up Henry Davis and Endy Rodriguez, who are the catchers of the future, to not even let them catch. Henry Davis has only, I think, caught 1 inning, and it was in like a blowout game. Endy Rodriguez, pretty solid catcher, but like his bat, you saw the bomb he hit in Cincinnati. That's what can be there. But at the same time, I think they need, you see the flashes, and he's more of that. He's won the minor league MVP twice, or the Pirates. He was the Pirates minor league MVP last year, but you see him come up. He's batting .211, only 3 homers. For a catcher, I mean, it is what it is. But you got to hope for more power, especially with. And you have to say this too. They're both very young still. They're both. Him especially. I think he's like 21, 22. Henry is a little bit older. I think he's like 23, 24. But
I think they should put Henry at first. And
I think they should put Endy at first.
Really? But has Endy had reps at first base?
Here's the thing. They both had reps because they spent so much time in the minor leagues because they're like, okay, we have a plan for the future. We have 2 very good catchers that can be the future captain of this team, and Endy and Henry. But the Pirates are like, okay, we need to let Austin Hedges play enough time. We also had Jason DeLay, who's still playing baseball on a daily basis for some odd reason. But they put Henry in the outfield, which I get.
I didn't hate that.
His arm is not bad.
Yeah.
But him playing in the major leagues in a position he was learning in the minor leagues, and you have a 21-foot outfield wall that is very hard to play off of, and if you are not particularly an outfielder, you're going to have issues. But you saw the play he had against Philly to gun him out at home in extra innings. That's where that arm is and comes to play playing the catcher in right field. But other than that, I mean, I want to see him catch and Endy goes to first, or they play Jared Triolo at first base because he's probably been the most promising rookie, which is crazy. Batting .297, 3 home runs, 19 ribbies. He's showing his power now too because he got sent down to the minor leagues for some odd reason. I don't know why they sent him back down. He did not deserve to go back to the minor leagues. It was just like the whole we just want to keep Henry and Endy up because they're the more well-known rookies. But Jared Triolo is doing a great job at proving why he could be a guy on this team to work out because he was one of those guys a lot of people weren't expecting to pan out and be good.
Another guy, I didn't think Peguero was going to be as good as he is. He's looking great, Peguero. I was really excited from what I've seen from him this year. He's been hitting nukes.
Yep.
Big Peguero fan I am. So let me ask you this. What would your opening day dream lineup be? Your dream lineup? I think for me, I'm going to have to say my starting pitcher is going to be Paul Skeens. Then behind the mound, or behind home plate, I'm going to go with Endy at catcher. First base, I'll go Triolo. Shortstop, I'm going to go with O'Neal Cruz if he's back in time. He should be. Third base, I'll go with obviously Brian Hayes. In the outfield, I'll go Reynolds in center. I really don't understand why McCutcheon's not in the outfield because our outfielders kind of suck. Yeah. So I would honestly put McCutcheon in the outfield, and then you have Henry Davis in right field.
DH.
And then second base and DH are up for grabs, in my opinion. I mean, you could put Paguero, I would say, in the outfield as well. And then your DH could be, like Nick Gonzalez? And I think that
I like Nick Gonzalez,
I
too.
I think that'd be a good starting lineup.
Say with Nick Gonzalez, people jump the gun because a lot of fans who are crazy diehard Pirates fans on social media, I see it all the time, and it's half the time they're just stupid. They count a guy out based off his minor league statistics. Like he has a very high career strikeout percentage, but when the bat is there, you saw his first career homer hit off the batter's eye.
Yeah.
He can hit, and they need a second baseman that can hit. That is very good. But I'll give you my lineup. You were gonna say something?
Yeah. So I just thought of it. I'll put Nick Gonzalez at second, Paguero in the outfield. We can even take out McCutchen. But Jack Sawinski, I have no clue what this guy. 'Cause he either strikes out or hits a nuke. And most of the time it's strikeout. I'm ready to be done with Jack Sawinski.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just so hot and cold that it's very frustrating to watch. And I'm not gonna lie. I've been watching a lot less Pirates baseball than I was in the beginning of the season. I was really into them in the beginning of the season, then they just die off, and it's so hard to follow it. But
Especially with football going on.
Yeah.
I don't blame people.
It's tough, but
I'm a big Pirates fan, so I'll never cut them off out of my life, sadly, and that's probably why I go crazy watching this team. But when the Steelers start, a lot of Pittsburgh fans just don't care anymore. Yeah. But I'll give you my entire lineup here. So I guess playing each position, I don't think Paul Skeens is up yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Mitch Keller.
Okay.
I think he's gonna be your opening day starter. I think Skeens could make the rotation, but they're gonna do the whole service time thing possibly.
Yeah.
It's gonna be Mitch Keller. Skeens might come up in a week or two after that.
Yeah.
Catcher, I want it to be Henry Davis, but they'll probably put Endy back there for a while. First base, I think it would be very cool to see a free agent signing in there. A guy that stood out to me is Rhys Hoskins. He was hurt all year, and he has that power in his bat. He's been linked to the Pirates for some reason. A lot of people think it's a signable guy, especially with ownership and the GM, Ben Cherington, saying it's probably time to compete. The players know they can compete the way they've been playing. So I'm going to take, I think, a free agent signing. If it's not a free agent, I could also see Carlos Santana coming back.
Love that.
But I am actually going to take Jared Triolo for now. I'm saying they don't sign anyone there. Second base,
Gonzalez.
I would love it to be Nick Gonzalez, but they love Ji-Hwan Bae, and I'm a big Ji-Hwan Bae guy too. He's very fast, but I think they're going to roll with Nick. They're going to roll with Nick Gonzalez, I think.
I hope.
Shortstop, it's O'Neal Cruz, no one else. Brian Hayes at third, no one else. Left field, they're going to put Brian Reynolds out there. Right field, probably Henry Davis, DH McCutchen, and here's your center fielder. It's going to be a free agent. It's going to be a Korean player, the top Korean guy in the foreign draft class, foreign players poll. Jung-Hoo Lee, put it on there. He is a contact beast. I think he has potential. He's won the Triple Crown in Korea. I'm very high on the KBO players and the NPB players in Japan. This dude can hit above 330 every year. He's very fast. And with the connections the Pirates have had to Korean teams in the past, they had connection with Jung-Ho Gung. They were able to steal Ji-Hwan Bae from the Braves whenever they picked him up and they couldn't keep him. So we got Ji-Hwan Bae out of a foreign free agency. They had connections to Ji-Man Choi. They bring in all these Korean players, and I had a feeling they were going to keep them all to try to lure in Jung-Ho Lee. Of course, Ji-Man Choi is gone, but I think that's why Ji-Hwan Bae is still on this team, to try to lure in this guy to come over from Korea and play for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm going to take him in center field, batting leadoff, day one. I want it to happen so bad. He's probably my highest guy on the free agency, except for Shohei Ohtani. But if that were to ever happen, I would cry, because I would cry tears of joy saying we might be competitive.
I love that.
But yeah, if Shohei Ohtani becomes a Pirate, that'd be nuts.
Mario, what's your starting nine?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I just want us to be good. I'm tired of them being a disgrace to my hometown and my city. So I guess my question to you guys would be when Paul Skeens come up, how good do you think he's going to be starting out as a rookie? How long do you think it's going to take him to get to where they say he's going to be?
I've seen a lot of people say he's the best pitching prospect that people have seen in a long time. And I was really excited when we picked him. I didn't think we would, because I honestly didn't think he'd even sign with us. But he did. It was a record-setting deal. I think he's the highest-paid rookie contract ever.
He's the highest. Yeah.
He became what Dylan Cruz wanted to do.
Dylan Cruz didn't get as much as him.
I know. I was happy about it.
Went against Dylan Cruz.
Kind of.
I didn't want Dylan Cruz.
Yeah. But I do think Paul Skeens is going to be a phenomenal player. But I could also see it panning out like Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole was the same story. It was, this guy is a machine. He's so good. He came up and he killed it for the Pirates. And then when it's time to pay him, he walks and we don't pay him. But even though Garrett Cole wanted, Garrett Cole wanted out, but at the same time, if we would have given him the bag, he would have stayed.
Well, that's the issue with Pirate players, I feel like, is they bring these guys up through the system, and then once they get, like, if they do pan out and become good, once they're about to become a free agent, then we don't want to give them the money that they're worth. Like, Garrett Cole, his contract was like $200 million. Like, the Pirates, their first $100 million contract they just gave out this last year.
Yeah.
Going up to $200 million.
That is a very good point by you, Mario. And I want to add this about Paul Skeens. I was pro Dylan Cruz before college baseball started, but just looking about like how he was hitting, watching the College World Series, he reminds me of, he's a speedy, he was compared to Mike Trout. I don't think he's going to be as good as Mike Trout will ever be. I think at best he could be like a Bryce Harper with less power. And that's not saying Bryce Harper isn't good. Bryce Harper's still one of the best players in all baseball. Dylan Cruz is just faster than I think most outfielders, and he has a little bit more pop. But I was watching the College World Series. There wasn't a lot of pop in that bat. And you know what plays into it, too. They use metal bats.
Yeah.
In the MLB, you use wood.
Well, I mean, the kick it hit. And the thing is I think when it comes down to being in the postseason, you're better off having a shutdown pitcher than an incredible hitter. I mean, look at, like, the Giants in 2015. Madison Bumgarner absolutely carried them to the World Series. We need a player like that. Remember when, what was that guy for the Mets, Daniel Murphy, remember him?
Yep.
He had all those home runs, but it didn't matter because the Mets couldn't get it done otherwise.
Yeah.
So if we can have a solid pitcher that can carry us, we get to the World Series in games 1, 4, and 7, he can pitch and lead us to wins. I think that's probably the most optimal thing.
And I'll add this, like I was going to say about Paul Skeens before I went off on like Dylan Cruz and all that. I saw a stat before he got drafted. His average fastball, I think, was like 102, and his like average pitch speed was faster than anyone in the MLB. And yes, I get it's college baseball, but this dude pitched a full dominant season at a top SEC school in LSU. And he had Dylan Cruz on his team overshadowing him. And no one really cared about Paul Skeens until they saw how good he was in the playoffs in the College World Series. And this dude could flat out pitch. And what worries me about him is I think he's still going to be a beast. But I think he could start out a little bit slow because a lot of his pitches are fastballs up in the zone, and you see how a player like Hunter Green on the Reds, he got hurt, and he throws about the same repertoire as Paul Skeens, very fast fastball, as it should be, but he can throw at least 100 plus. But hitters, we saw McCutchen or Cruz take him deep opening day because it's just a fastball up in the zone. But I don't think Paul Skeens will be like that. I'm very excited for Paul Skeens just because he's the hope and the future of this team. And if he doesn't pan out, it's just going to be a future limbo of like which pitcher they're going to keep going. That's why I'm happy Mitch Keller figured it out this year because they need pitchers to do good, especially if they're saying they're going to compete next year.
Danny?
All right. I've got nothing to say.
Well, so let me ask you this. So do you guys, how long do you think the Pirates championship window is? Is this a case where the window is maybe 4 or 5 years until all of these rookies they're bringing up, until all of them become free agents, or do you think it can last longer than that?
I'll let you start.
Because I would say it's probably pretty short.
I don't think we're even in the window yet. I think that we need to at least make the playoffs until we get in that window. Like, I mean, the Yankees are in that window now, but they're not making the playoffs. The Mets, same thing, they're not making the playoffs. So I think the first thing you have to think about before you can even talk about the World Series, because baseball, it is a lot different than like any other sport, the NFL and the NBA. The best team doesn't always go to the World Series. It doesn't happen. Like in football and basketball, usually the best 4 teams are the last 4 teams. Sometimes you'll get a shocker in there. Rarely ever happens in football, except for like, I don't know, when the Eagles went with Nick Foles, like that was kind of the last time it was like a super underdog in the Super Bowl.
But that was still a good team, though.
But like even in the World Series, like the Nationals went.
It's
like,
about who gets hot at the right time.
Yeah.
The Phillies last year, they didn't win it, of course,
And
but
in
they were
baseball,
just hottest team.
if anything's been proven over time, all you have to do is get in, especially with the wild card.
Exactly.
Listen,
like if you get into the playoffs, then it's really anyone's, because we've seen the Pirates beat the best teams. We've seen the best teams again get beat by the worst teams. So at the end of the day, it's getting into the playoffs first. And then I think once the Pirates are consistently getting in the playoffs, once they are consistently winning in the playoffs, then you can start talking about, all right, this is our year to go to the World Series. And then you can say, okay, these guys are ready. They've been in the playoffs. They're experienced. McCutchen's not even a playoff experienced player. And he's been in the league for all these years. We love to say he's a veteran, but he has no postseason experience. I mean, he's
same
won
with Mike Trout.
one series in the playoffs. Like McCutchen and Trout, again, like you said,
They're just loyal players.
They have no experience in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and let me piggyback off of what you said, Danny. It's kind of like we can talk about in MLB, all you have to do is get in. Think about like the Pirates, what happened to them in 2014 and 2015.
yeah.
I don't think the Cubs were better than us in
Wow,
2015,
yeah.
but they
That
had
was
Jake,
just the whole
Jake
one.
they had
Arrieta.
Jake
Jake
Arrieta,
Arrieta
they
just
had
lit
one
the world
pitcher,
on
they
fire.
had the one game, and they
Yeah.
beat us, and they went all the way to the
I
NLCS.
will always say this, and after I say this, I'll do my whole championship window thing. But if they introduce the whole 3-game wild card, the Pirates had the potential to win it all in 2015. Their pitching rotation was top tier. They had like 3
agree.
All-Stars
We
on the
won
pitching
98
rotation.
games. We had the second best record in the league.
Here's the thing about that too that made me so mad. The Cardinals finished with the best record. They were in our division. The next 2 teams had 98 wins, 97 wins. Us and the Cubs, and we had to play a 1-game wild card game. That like broke my heart as a kid. I was like, we have a chance to actually win the World Series, and the Royals won it that year, and they're like a smaller market than Pittsburgh, but now the Royals stink. But looking ahead, bless you, looking ahead at the championship window, I'll say is I want to try to keep this as short as possible. They're 74 and 82 right now. Last year they were 62 and 100. So they already added about 12 wins, I think so. Quick math, I don't know if that was right or wrong. But looking ahead, this team reminds me of the Orioles of last year. The Orioles around this time last year, and the Orioles have been terrible.
So you're saying they're gonna win 90 games next year? Is that what you're saying?
Let me add on to this very quick. So basically with the Orioles last year, they had around this record. They seemed like they were going to make a push. Our push was in the beginning of the year. And then we just fell off the face of the earth, and now we're slowly creeping back. Ever since the All-Star break, we've been one of the best record teams in baseball, which is actually crazy. But the Orioles have been terrible forever. Then they drafted Adley Rutschman. Jackson Holliday is going to be up next year. He's a very good shortstop. Heston Kjerstad, he's very good. They made trades to get all these pitchers. They just added Jack Flaherty in there. John Means is pretty good. They have all these guys, and Bradish is one of those guys too that can pitch. But looking at how they have done it, it seems like the Pirates are on that track, and I would not be surprised if the Pirates are saying they want to compete next year. They could be a wild card team and be in the hunt, and they're not going to be like the Orioles and win like 95 plus games. I would love it if they did, but I think the championship window opens in next year when they start making the postseason. I always have been saying 2025 is the year. 2025 World Champions is when it's going to happen. But I think Max, with all these rookies, and I saw they actually paid Brian Reynolds. He's here until like the 2030s, I think. They locked him up. Brian Hayes is locked up. I think Cruz is going to get locked up. They're going to do that. I think Bob Nutting actually wants to do that because I think he's starting to realize what is happening in this city, and there's actually a plan in place.
Just starting to realize now.
Yeah, which is crazy. I think he's just starting to realize because I think he's finally seeing a plan.
Yeah.
He's actually seeing a plan of these players that have been brought in, and I've been critical of the GM this year because I was mad when the Reds were calling up all these people and it was just magically working, and we're just sitting there waiting like, where's all of our prospects? But it's kind of, the plan is starting to go in motion. I think next year going up to hopefully the rest of time we are contenders, but I think the championship window might be opening soon.
Haven't we been saying that next year is the year, like for like 5 years?
This is
now?
probably the first year I've actually been saying
This is like the
there's actually
year
potential.
in a row that I've been hearing next year is the year. I hear that every single year. Every single year I hear that.
I just try to believe so hard in this team every single time, and I actually think next year could be the year that they make the playoffs, not the World Series, but make the playoffs.
Well, I think that's all the time that we have today. First of all, we just want to take this moment to shout out God for putting us in the position that we're in. Shout out my boy Danny. Shout out Nate. Shout out Kenny Pickett, my guy. Turned up yesterday. Revived his career. That's it. That's all we got. We'll see you guys next week on The Big Hit. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter and TikTok. Just to add. Put it up and we'll
At
put it up
IUP-TV is the big hit.
Follow me on TikTok here. Follow me on Instagram right here. YouTube down here. All right. That's it.